For course unit 13 and 14, ang topic natin are the laws for the Comprehensive Dangerous Drug Act. So, bago tayo nagkaroon ng RA 9165, diba, natakal na din natin kasi yung RA 6425 dun sa history. Yun muna yung law natin. Wala pa tayong RA 9165 noon. Okay, we started dun sa mga history ng Pilipinas na laws, na natakal na natin yon nung sa history ng drugs. So, ito naman, these are just the history of the RA 9165. This is the, This is the RA 9165, the Comprehensive Dangerous Drug Act of 2002, which is ito na yung ini-implement natin today. Okay po? So, let's start. So, bago tayo mag-start, ang RA 9165 na, na-implement siya noong June 7, 2002. So, sometimes sinatawag ang RA 9165 Drug Act of 2002. Okay po? So, mag-start muna tayo sa definition of terms. Kasi hindi natin maiintindihan yung mga different laws or yung mga sasunod pa nating mga topic sa next week kung hindi natin i-define ano yung mga tong words na to na ginagamit kapag sa drug. So, number one term is administer. When we say administer, this is any act of introducing any dangerous drug into the body of any person. Pag sabing administer, ito yung pagpasok. Yan. Pagpasok po ng ating drug sa katawan. Again, administer any act of introducing dangerous drug into body of any person with or without his or her knowledge. Intindihan? Pwedeng alam niya or hindi niya alam. By injection, di ba, we have different types of administering drugs, pwedeng injection, inhalation, ingestion, or other means of committing any act of indispensable assistance to a person in administering a dangerous drug to himself or herself unless administered by a duly licensed practitioner for the purpose of medication. So, yung act ng pagpasok ng drug sa inyo, alam mo man or hindi mo alam, ang tawag doon ay administer. In any form, orally, inhalation, injection, diba? Iontophoresis, diba? Napag-aralan nyo ba yan? Yung mga different types of, on how to administer drugs? Diba? Merong iontophoresis, merong bibuccal, diba? Yan, lahat yon. So, ang yung act na yon, ang tawag sa law na yon, ang tawag sa under ng RA 9165 is administer. Okay? Next, centers. We're talking, pag sinabi nating centers, we're talking about any treatment or any facility that is in the purpose of treatment and rehabilitation centers for drug defenders referred to Section 34, Article 8 of this Act. So, kapag sinabi ng center, ang tinutukoy nila dito is yung mga rehabilitation center. Okay po. Next, chemical diversion. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand, use the chat box, or just ask question immediately. No? Chemical diversion. Ano ibig sabihin ng chemical diversion? This is the sale, distribution, supply, or transport legitimately imported in transit, manufactured, or procured controlled precursor, essential chemicals in diluted, or anything engaged in criminal dangerous drug act in anong ginagawa nila? They shall include packaging, repackaging, labeling, relabeling, or concealment of such transaction through fraud, destruction of documents. Ang tawag dyan ay chemical diversion. Paano ibig sabihin ng chemical diversion? For example, marijuana. Palalabasin nila na sigarilyo siya. So, parang yung mga chemicals, lahat ng gamit, kahit marijuana or essential chemicals yan, anything na ginagamit for anything na chemicals, okay? Or substance na dinagamit for making drugs or drug na siya mismo, dangerous drugs na siya mismo. For example, shabu, papalabasin nilang asukal. Ayan. Ang tawag doon ay chemical diversion. Bakit nila gaganon? Bakit nila re-repackaging or i-relabel? Kasi para mabenta nila, 'di ba? Para mapuslit nila, ma-distribute nila, ma-transport nila. So, ang tawag dun sa act na pinapalitan nila or tinatago nila, dinidisguise nila yung isang chemical substance. Ang tawag dun ay chemical diversion. Nakakasunod po ba? Kailangan alam yung mga definition of terms na to para kapag nagtanong ako doon sa mga questions ko, naiintindihan nyo. Or yung mga exams nyo niyan. Kasi, ito na yon. Naiintindihan po ba? Next. Clandestine laboratory. From the word itself, clandestine. Pag sinabi natin clandestine, this is covert, nakatago. Diba? Clandestine laboratory, it is any facility used for the illegal manufacture of any dangerous drugs or controlled precursors and essential chemical. Okay? Ito yung mga laboratories kung saan nila ginagawa. Okay? Or ini-stock or saan nila ginagawa yung mga dangerous drugs. Sa clandestine laboratory, meron dangerous drugs na dyan. Merong mga controlled precursor or essential chemicals. Yung, mama, ano po ba yung ulit-ulit na yan? Sabi niya, controlled precursor and essential chemicals. These are the essential chemicals or these are the drugs that are uses in making drugs, dangerous drugs. Diba, kung napanood niyo yung mga videos, kung paano gumawa ng shabu, paano gumawa ng cocaine, kung paano yan yon ang tawag dyan, controlled precursor and essential chemical. Next, we have confirmatory test. What is the meaning of confirmatory test? This is an analytical test using a device, tool, or equipment with a different chemical or physical principle that is more specific, which is validate and confirm the result of screening test. Diba meron tayong two types of tests? Kasi in order for them to determine whether it is a drug, una, dadaan muna sa screening test. Okay? Sa screening test, ang titignan lang nila is the physical form. Titikman lang nila, physical form, o ano itsura niya. That is screening test. Paano yung confirmatory test? Confirmatory test, it will confirm if the screening test is truth or not. Napalitaan nyo ba yung pinastop nila yung delivery ng isang van kasi daw pinaghihinalaan na shabu yung dinideliver nila. Pero, so ibig sabihin sa screening test, napatunayan nila na shabu yun kasi ganun ang tsura niya. Pero, nung pinatunayan nila sa confirmatory test, lumabas daw na sugar lang siya. Okay? Again, that is confirmatory test. It will just validate or it will just, tawag dito? It will just, parang, iko-correct lang niya if tama ba si screening test or hindi. Naintindihan po ba? That is confirmatory test. We have different examples of confirmatory test. Pwedeng chemical test. Pwede siyang through chromatography test. Yan. That is confirmatory test. Next, control delivery. Ano naman po yung tinatawag nating control delivery? When you encounter the word control delivery here, okay, this is the investigative technique. Okay? Investigative technique of allowing an unlawful or suspect consignment of any dangerous drug, controlled precursor, and essential chemical, equipment, or paraphernalia, or property believed to be derived directly or indirectly from any offense, to pass in throughout or the country under the supervision of an authorized officer with the view of gathering evidence to identify any person involved in dangerous drug. Ito yung sa mga buy-bus operation. Okay, yan yung controlled delivery. Pag sinabing controlled delivery, ibig sabihin, kasama yan sa mga raid ng police. Okay? Kontrolado nila yan, kaya nga controlled delivery. Anong purpose, ma'am? Bakit merong ganyan? Para malaman nila kung sino yung gumagamit, sino yung bumibili, at saan nila gagamitin. That is what we call controlled delivery. Pag-aaralan din natin yan kapag napunta tayo sa mga raid or yung mga operational technique ng PNP when it comes to drugs or ng PDEA. Ganyan. Okay tayo doon? Nag-guess po ang controlled delivery. Parang yun sa mga tawag dito, buy-bus operation nga yung kalawari, pabibili, may asset sila, ganyan. Naintindihan po ba? Next. Controlled precursors and essential chemicals. Yan. These include those listed in Table 1 and 2 of the 1988 UN Convention Against Illicit Traffic in Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances as enumerated in attached annex, which is an integral part of this act. Itong mga controlled precursor and essential chemicals, ito yung mga list of chemicals na pinagbabawal. Okay? We have different types of chemicals po. Okay? Tapos nakalist sila dyan. Kaya yun yung sinasabi ko pa ulit-ulit na controlled precursor and essential chemicals. Next, cultivate or culture. What does it mean when I say cultivate or culture? Any act of knowingly planting, growing, raising, or permitting the planting, growing, or raising of any plant which is the source of dangerous drug. Yung cultivate or culture, ito yung kanwari, nagtanim ka ng marijuana dyan sa inyo. Yan. Ang tawag doon ay cultivate or culture. Knowingly. An act of knowingly. Ibig sabihin, alam mo ha. Nabaltaan nyo ba yung sa Baguio noon, yung nasa news? Dalawang magjowa, yung bahay nila, tinaniman nila ng marijuana. Marijuana plants. Pero nakulong sila kasi alam naman nila, nag-aaral sila ng marijuana yun eh. So, ang tawag doon sa act na ginawa nila is cultivate or culture. Basta alam mo. Pero, may kaso po ba if hindi ko naman alam na marijuana siya? Or hindi ko naman alam na cocaine plant siya, coca plant siya? Kapag hindi mo naman alam na bawal siya, kaya sabi niya, okay lang. Pero kapag kamari, knowingly, sabi nga niya, alam mo, that is cultivate or culture. Naintindihan po ba? Next, deliver. What's the meaning of deliver? Alam nyo na yan. Ayan. An act of knowingly passing. Yan, nag-deliver ka. Parang courier ka. Sabi nga nila, di ba? Any act of knowingly passing a dangerous drug to another, personally or otherwise, by means with or without consideration. Hindi naman ikaw yung nagbebenta. Nagdi-deliver ka lang. Nagets mo ba yan? Next, okay? Madalas ang nagiging deliver or parang courier yung mga bata, di ba? Or sa ibang bansa, yung mga Pinoy. Next, den, dive, or resort. Anong ibig sabihin kapag na-encounter nyo ang den, dive, or resort? This is a place, okay, where any dangerous drug or controlled precursors, essential chemical is administered, delivered, stored, or for illegal purposes, distributed, sold, or any form. Yung den, dive, or resort, hindi sila dito gumagawa ng drugs. Dito lang nila ini-stock. Okay? Den, dive, or resort. For example, yung bahay ni Jason Bazar, dyan nila nilalagay yung mga controlled precursors and essential chemicals. Ang tawag dun sa bahay mo, den, dive, or resort. Pero hindi sila dyan gumagawa ng droga. Ano lang siya, parang stock room. Dyan lang sila, parang dyan yung kitaan nila. Dyan sila nag-i-store, nagdi-deliver. Ayan. Dyan din sila gumagamit. Ayan. Pero hindi siya pagawaan. Kasi pag pagawaan, ang tawag doon ay clandestine laboratory. Naiintindihan po yan. For example, nagsisession kayo ka na Brandon Sunga. Ang tawag doon, pwedeng den. Kaya nga diba, drug den, sabi nila. Drug dive, drug resort. Yan, nagigets nyo na yan. So, pag na-encounter nyo yung mga word na yun sa news, dapat naiintindihan nyo na. Next, dispense. What's the meaning of dispense? This is any act of giving away, okay, selling or distributing medicine or any dangerous drug with or without the use of prescription. Dispense, ito yung nagbebenta ka ng drugs or pwedeng hindi ka man nagbebenta, okay, pinamimigay mo or parang ikaw yung nagiging daan. That is dispense. Act. Okay, kapag ang tawag dun sa act, yung namimigay, that is dispense. Anong tawag dun sa tao na gumagawa niyan? Anong tawag? Kung yung act is, yung act ibig sabihin yung nagbibigay, anong tawag dun sa tao gumagawa ng dispense?
Drug pusher.
Pusher. Tama, very good. Okay? Pusher naman ang tawag dun sa tao na gumagawa ng dispense. Nakita niyo yung pinagkaiba niyan? Yung act na ginagawa ng tao, dispense. Pero yung tao gumagawa ng dispense, ang tawag ay pusher. Dali lang, di ba? Mas madali kasing intindihin ng drugs kapag naintindihan muna natin yung mga definition of terms niya. Next, drug dependence. Alam nyo na to. Di ba, we have two types of drug dependence. Ano siya? What are the two types of being drug dependence? Nabakasyon na. Ano? What are the two types? Paano ka nagiging drug dependence? What are the two types? Physically and?
Mentally.
Psychologically. Diba? We have two types, physical dependent and psychological drug dependence. So, yan. Next, drug syndicate. Ito yung mga sindikato. Any organized group of 2 or more person. Again, ang drug syndicate, any organized group of 2, mag-start siya sa 2 or more persons, forming or joining together in intention of committing any offense prescribed under this act. Next, employee of den, dive, or resort. Employee, ibig sabihin siya yung parang caretaker. For example, yung mismong resort nila Janet, meron silang resort si Janet. Tapos, meron siyang parang tao doon. Siya yung parang caretaker doon. Ang tawag sa kanya, employee of den, dive, or resort. This is the caretaker, helper, watchman, lookout, and other persons working in a den, dive, resort. Next, financier. May financier po sa drugs? Yes. Okay? Financier, this is any person who pays, raise, or supplies money for or underwrites any of the illegal activities prescribed under this act. Kasi yung iba, hindi nga sila yung physically gumagawa, ganyan involved. Sila lang yung nagbibigay ng pera or nagbibigay ng pondo. Ang tawag sa kanila ay financier. Next, we also have illegal trafficking of drugs. What is illegal trafficking? This is the illegal cultivation, culture, delivery, basta trafficking na ng mga drugs. Di ba nga we have illegally trafficked routes, mafia, triads, ayan. Ang tawag dyan ay illegal trafficking. Next, instrument. Ma'am, ano po yung tinatawag nilang instrument dyan? This is anything that is used or intended to be used in any manner in the commission of illegal drug trafficking or related offenses. Instrument, for example, foil. Yan, ang tawag dyan ay instrument. Gumamit ka ng foil. Instrument na ang tawag dyan. Intindihan po ba? Include siya doon. We also have laboratory equipment. Ito naman, laboratory equipment, ito yung mga ginagamit nilang instruments in making drugs. For example, yung mga beaker, yan. The paraphernalia, apparatus, materials, or appliances when used, intended for use, or designed for use in the manufacture, okay, of any dangerous drug or controlled precursor, essential chemicals such as reaction vessel, ayan, purifying equipment, fermenters, funnel flask, heating mantle, gas generator, or other substitute. Ang tawag doon ay laboratory equipment. Magkaiba ang instrument sa laboratory equipment. Ang laboratory equipment, ginagawa yan para makagawa ng drugs, in manufacturing drugs. Ang instrument, ito yung ginagawa mo para gumamit ka ng drugs. Kita niyo yung pinagkaiba? Next, we also have manufacture. Manufacture, ito na yung act of making drugs. Manufacture ang tawag dyan. This is what we call the production, preparation, compounding, or processing of any dangerous drug, controlled precursors, and essential chemical directly or indirectly, sabi nga niya, by extraction of substances of natural origin. Basta tandaan niyo ang manufacture, this is the act of making a dangerous drug. Saan ginagawa ang manufacture? Sa clandestine laboratory. Ano yung mga ginagawa sa manufacture? Ano yung mga ginagamit nila ang tawag? Laboratory equipment. Naintindihan nyo na yan. Kasi po, bakit ko iniisa-isa to? Kasi iba-iba yung mga penalty niyan. Okay, so kung malilito kayo sa meaning nila, hindi nyo maintindihan ang penalty nila. Lalo na kapag ginawa nating situational. Diba? Next, planting of evidence. So ito, sabi nga nila, tapon droga or laglag droga. Ganyan lang. Planting of evidence. This is the willful act of any person maliciously or surreptitiously inserting, placing, or adding, or attaching directly or indirectly through any overt or covert act, whatever quantity of any dangerous drugs, diba? In the purpose of what? Implicating, incriminating, or imputing the commission of any violation of this act. For example, alam niyo yung mga sinasabi ng mga sa TV, yung sa mga news na wala naman po talaga kaming drugs dyan eh. Nilagyan lang po yan ng mga polis. Ayan. Yung sinasabi lang nila na ganun, ang tawag doon ay planting of evidence. Tinataniman mo ng droga. For example, sabi nila, ni-raid namin siya, 'di ba? Tapos ito yung nakita namin sa bahay niya. Yan, madaming droga. Minsan totoo 'yon. Hindi ko sinasabing not all the times. Minsan totoo 'yon, minsan wala naman talaga silang nakita tapos lalagyan nila. Okay? Or yung iba, for example, kung kaaway nila yung pinapakulong nila, 'di ba? Lalagyan niya ng droga yung bag niya. Ganyan, tapos papa-search niya. So that is planting of evidence. Ang purpose mo is to implicate, incriminating, or imputing the commission of any violation of this act. That is planting of evidence. Bawal yun. Bakit? Kasi hindi naman talaga siya yung gumamit ng drugs. Parang tinataniman mo lang siya ng ebidensya. Next is practitioner. What is the meaning of practitioner? Any person who is licensed physician, dentist, chemical or medical technologist, nurse, midwife, veterinarian, or pharmacist in the Philippines. That is practitioner. Ito yung mga doktor, okay? Anything na professional about na pwedeng mag-administer ng drugs. Sabi nga niya, pwedeng dentist, chemist, medical technologist. That is practitioner. Next, protector or cuddler. Sino kadalasan ng protector or cuddler? Sino yung mga yan? Sino ang protector or cuddler?
Mga official, ma'am.
Official, police. Very good. So, any person who knowingly and willfully consents to the unlawful acts provided in this act, uses his or her influence, power, or position in shielding, harboring, screening, or facilitating the escape of any person, has reasonable grounds to believe on suspects that violated the provision on this act. Ang protector or cuddler. Yung mga pulis na hinahayaan lang or alam nila, minsan sila pa ang nagpo-protect sa kanila. Kaya minsan totoo yung sinasabi ng iba kaya hindi natatapos yung mga drug natin, issues. Kasi mismo may protector sila. Kasi bakit sila nagiging protector? Sila, di ba? Nabibigyan sila ng pera. That is protector and cuddler. Pusher. Again, ano nga yung pusher? Ito yung tao na nagbebenta, nagbibigay, or nagpapasa ng drugs. Ano nga ang tawag doon sa ginagawa nilang act?
Dispense.
Next, sell. What is sell? When we say sell, this is any act of giving away dangerous drug. Diba? Ito yung pagbebenta. That is sell. Next, trading. What is trading naman? Ito na. Transactions involving the illegal trafficking of dangerous drugs, controlled precursor using electronic devices, but not limited to text messages, email, mobile or landlines, two-way radios, chat rooms, or acting as a broker in any such of transaction, whether money or other consideration in violation. Trading, ito na yung nakikipag-transact sila sa ibang tao. Kapag, for example, ikaw, magbenta ka, yung act nila, nakikipag-transact sila sa ibang tao, tawag doon ay trading. Naintindihan po ba? Trading yon. Kapag nakikipag-usap na sila. Next, you also have use. Okay? Any act of injecting intravenously, intramuscular, or consuming either by chewing, smoking, use of dangerous drugs. Okay, next. Ano pinagkaiba ng use sa administer, ma'am? Ang administer, these are ang tinatawag natin sa mga techniques na ginagamit nila. Use, ito ang tawag mo ng paggamit mo mismo. Ito na. So, let's go now with the next topic sa course unit 14, the unlawful acts and penalties of RA 9165. So, do you have any questions about this? Pinili ko lang yung mga definition of terms, Pedro, you can check din ang ating mga definition of terms under RA 9165. Pero sa tingin ko, ito lang naman yung parang pinakamahalaga kasi ito naman ang included sa mga unlawful acts and penalties. So, do you have any questions? Do you have any questions po?
Wala naman po.
Okay. These are the unlawful acts na bigyan natin ng penalty. Okay? Section 4 of the RA 9165 is the importation. Pag sinabing importation, this is what? Importation, ito yung act na ini-import mo from the other place. Import. Okay, importation. This is importation of any dangerous drugs, importation of any controlled precursor and essential chemical. Ma'am, bakit ibang penalty? Okay, iba kasi ang dangerous drug sa controlled precursor. Ang dangerous drug, this is the manufactured product. Ito na yung cocaine. Ito na yung shabu. Yung any controlled precursor, essential chemical, sabi ko nga, ito yung mga nakalis dun sa 1988 UN Convention. Yung mga essential chemicals para makagawa lang ng cocaine, para makagawa ng shabu. Kaya iba yung penalty. Kung titingnan nyo, mas mataas ang penalty ng dangerous drug kesa dun sa controlled precursor and essential chemicals. Bakit? Kasi ang dangerous drug, product na yan. Diba? Ang controlled precursor and essential chemical, ito pa lang yung ginagamit nila, parang sangkap, ingredients. Yan. Kapag nag-import ka, okay, ng dangerous drug, okay po, ang penalty mo is life imprisonment to death and a fine of 500k to 10 million. Kapag naman ang in-import mo is any controlled precursor and essential chemical, ang penalty mo ay 12 years, 1 day to 20 years, at ang fine mo ay 100k to 500k. Take note of this penalties kasi kasama yan sa exams nyo. Okay po? Yan ang importation. So, when we say importation, regardless of the amount of drugs. For example, nag-import ka lang 1 gram of shabu. Ano ang penalty mo? Life imprisonment to death. Kahit 1 gram lang. Kasi pag sinabi nating importation, we're talking about the act of importing from another place to a specific place. In-import mo siya. In-import mo siya from Canada to Philippines. So, regardless of the grams, kahit pa sabihin mong 1 gram lang yan or 0.5 gram lang yan, basta nandun yung act ng importation, then, ito ang penalty mo. Naintindihan po ba? Next. Sale. Okay? Ano man ang binibenta mo, okay? Sale, trading, administration, dispensation, delivery, distribution, and transportation, or yung pusher na ginagawa nila, kahit ilang gramo pa, yung mga nababaltaan nyo, nakikita nyo sa TV, na kahit ilang gramo pa yan, kahit sabihin mo ng 2 grams of ano lang yan, shabu. Binenta mo, ayan, ito ang penalty mo. Kapag dangerous drugs, ano siya? Life imprisonment to death, ganun pa rin, 500k to 10 million. Kapag naman, controlled precursor, essential chemical, 12 years, 1 day to 20 years, and a fine of 100k and 500k. If i-compare mo tuturuan ko lang kayo kung paano mas madaling tandaan Kaya hindi ko na siya yung didiscuss na kung ano yung nasa batas Ito, naka-summarize na. So, hindi ko lahat i-discuss yung sa batas na RA 9165. Ito muna, yung mga penalties na to. Saka na tayo dun sa mga procedures. Okay, next topic yon. Tingnan nyo. If titignan nyo mabuti, importation and selling, okay, regardless of how many amount or ilan ang amount niya, pareho lang sila ng penalty. Can you see? Diba? Diba pareho lang sila ng penalty? Can you see it clearly? Basta importation,
Yes, ma'am.
selling, ayan, importation and selling, pareho lang. Kapag dangerous drug, life imprisonment to death, 500k. Any controlled precursor, 12 years, 1 day to 20 years, 100k to 500k. Kaya ako ginawang ganyan yung PowerPoint para mas madali yung tandaan. Okay po? Kasi ganyan na yung magiging exam nyo. Puro tayo batas ngayon. Next naman, okay, sale, trading, administration. Note, maximum penalty shall be imposed of. Kailan lang nagkakaroon ng maximum penalty? If yung pagbebenta niya transpires within 100 meters from the school. Mas malala siguro kung sa school siya nagbebenta. Yan. Or, basta malapit ng 100 meters sa school. Next, for drug pushers who use minors. Yan. Or mentally incapacitated individuals as runners, couriers, and messengers, maximum penalty po ang bibigay sa kanila, Next, if the victim of the offense is a minor or mentally incapacitated individual, provided be the proximate cause of death of victim thereof, still, that is maximum penalty. Sinabing maximum penalty, ito na yun. Kung ang maximum penalty is life imprisonment to death, therefore, life imprisonment, death. Kung meron tayong death penalty, ang bibigay sa kanya. Tapos, ang fine niya, 10 million. That is maximum penalty. Kailan lang nagkakaroon ng maximum penalty kapag sa sale trading? Kapag nagbenta siya within 100 meters in school. Or mas malala kung sa mismo school. Diba? If ang drug pusher gumamit ng minor or mentally incapacitated. At kung yung victim ng offense yon ay namatay. Yan. Minor or mentally incapacitated, therefore, maximum penalty. Section 6. Ayan, tingnan nyo ha. Maintenance of den, dive, or resort. Ayan. Kanwari, meron ka, sabi ko nga kanina, kanwari, si Janet de Guzman, meron siyang resort. Tapos, doon niya ini-impact. For example, doon niya, di ba, doon niya nilalagay yung ating, ano nga ibig sabihin ng den, dive, or resort? Dito kayo,
Store.
naging store. Ano pa? Doon kayo gumagamit. Ayan. For example, si Janet, meron siyang, tawag dito, resort. Tapos, doon siya gumagamit or nag-iimbak ng drugs. Kapag ang iniimbak niya is dangerous drug, for example, cocaine, shabu, therefore, ang penalty niya, ganito na naman. Life imprisonment to death, 500k to 10 million. Pag sinabi nating maintenance, ibig sabihin, ang sasampa ng kaso, kung sino yung may-ari or sino yung nagme-maintain nung den, dive, or resort na yon. Ganyan. Kapag naman ang in-stock natin doon is controlled precursor lang or essential chemicals, ganun pa rin ang penalty niya. 12 years, 1D to 20 years, and a fine of 100k to 500k. Okay na tayo dito. Note ulit, meron ulit siyang maximum penalty. Note, maximum penalty shall be imposed where any dangerous drug is administered, delivered, or sold to minor who is allowed to use the same in such place. For example, nagbebenta ka ng drugs doon sa mismong den na yon using minor, tapos doon din siya gumagamit. Maximum penalty yung bibigay sa'yo. Death penalty and a fine of 1 million to 15 million shall be imposed on maintainer, ayan, owner, ayan, or operator to the proximate cause of death of person using the same. If it is owned by a third person, the same shall be confiscated and executed in the favor of the government. For example, yung palang resort na yon na sinasabi ni Janet de Guzman na sa kanya, hindi naman sa kanya nakapangalan. Nakapangalan sa ate niya. Hindi naman alam ng ate niya na ginagamit yun sa pag-stock ng drugs. Okay? Still, kukuhanin niya ng gobyerno. The same shall be, hindi masasampan ng kaso yung ate niya. Okay? Hindi masasampan ng kaso yung ate niya kasi hindi naman niya alam. Okay? The same shall be confiscated, executed in the favor of the government. Ayan. Naintindihan na po ba niyan? Next. Employees and visitors of den, dive, or resort. Yung mga employee natin. For example, ikaw yung, anong tawag dyan? Siya yung nagbabantay or caretaker. Yan. Visitor. Ibig sabihin, ikaw yung bumibisita or parang gumagamit. Ano siya? Any employee or visitor who is aware of the nature of such place. Anong penalty niya? 12 years, 1D to 20 years, and a fine of 100k to 500k. Next. Section 8, manufacture. Ano nga ibig sabihin ng manufacture? What's the meaning of manufacture? Production. Ito yung act ng ginagawa. Kapag ginagawa nyo is dangerous drugs, therefore, that is, again, life imprisonment to death, 500k to 10 million. Pero kapag ang ginagawa nyo lang is any controlled precursor or any essential chemical, ang penalty nyo ay 12 years, 1D to 20 years, 100k ay 500k. Kasi yung mga ingredients ng drugs na yan, ginagawa din po. Okay? For example, kailangan nila isang gantong liquid. Bago nila maging, for example, di ba, ang shabu, kailangan ng thinner. Okay. Ngayon, ang thinner, bago magawa yan, gagawin muna, di ba? O kapag ginagawa nila ng thinner, therefore, that is 12 years, 1 day to 20 years. Kapag ang ginagawa ay mga sangkap pa lang, yan ang penalty. Kapag ang ginagawa is para makakreate na ng mga dangerous drug katulad ng shabu, marijuana, cocaine, that is life imprisonment to death, 500k and to 10 million. That is manufacture. manufacture. Okay. Any act shall be considered aggravating circumstances. Pag sinabi nating aggravating circumstances, it means pinapataas niya yung kaso. Diba? For example, simple homicide naging murder. Ano yung mga aggravating circumstances? This is conducted in the presence or with the help of minor. For example, ginagawa mo yung drugs na yan, kasama mo yung minor. Yan, nag-aggravate ang kaso mo yan. Undertaken within 100 meters of a residential business, church, school. Yan. Mag-aggravate yan kaso mo. Secured or protected with booby traps. Gumamit ka ng mga booby traps. Concealed with legitimate business operation. Yung for example, sa harap, kanwari, nagbebenta ka lang ng fireworks, pero sa loob, totoo, naggagawa ka ng drugs. Yan, tinatago nila. Kasi nga, clandestine yung mga yan eh. Saan ba sila nagmamanufacture? Sa clandestine laboratory. Okay? Any employment of practitioner, chemical engineer, public or official foreigner. For example, yung mismong drug lab nila or yung ang kanilang clandestine laboratory, meron pa silang doktor, may chemical engineer pa, di ba? Ayan, nag-aggravate ang circumstances. Anong tawag sa mga ganito? Kunwari, chemical engineer, doktor, ang tawag sa kanila ay practitioner. Okay tayo dyan? Next, ito. Illegal chemical diversion of controlled precursors and essential chemicals. Ano ang ibig sabihin ng chemical diversion? What is the meaning of chemical? Yes, Clarence.
Pag-package, ma'am, or pag-label po ng mga pag-iiba ng label sa mga drugs. For example
Para
po,
ma-split nila.
ginagawang kunwari, asukal po yung drugs ka.
Very good. Okay. Kapag ang chemical diversion is controlled precursor lang or essential chemicals, that is 12 years, 1 day to 20 years, 100K to 500K. That is section 9. Next, section 10. Ayan. Manufacture or delivery of equipment, instrument, apparatus, and other paraphernalia. Kapag, okay, any dangerous drugs or any controlled precursor, any essential chemical that is 12 years, 1 day to 20 years. Ito yung mga gamit. Okay? Ito yung mga gamit. Kapag laboratory equipment yan, ng mga any dangerous drugs, controlled precursor, ang penalty is, ayan, 12 years, 1 day to 20 years. Ang fine, 100K to 500K. Pero kapag ang gamit is just for inject, ingest, inhale, for example, gumamit sila ng pipe or bong, syringe, ayan, foil, ayan. That is 6 months, 1 day to 4 years, and a fine of 10K to 50K. So, yung mga instrument used to inject, to administer drugs, mas mababa ang penalty. Mas mataas ang penalty. Mas mataas ang, tawag dito, nandito kasi yung phone ko. Sorry for that. Nagulat din ako. Buti nga hindi na siya yung katulad nung, alam niyo yung nung November. Minsan nagugulat ako kasi hindi ako nag-silent ng phone kapag nasa bahay ako. Alam niyo yung, ano siya, siya shopping, na ano niyo yung sa sound na nakakatakot. Bigla siyang tutunog, ako lang mag-isa sa bahay, ganun pa yung sound. Okay. Sorry for that interruption. Okay, go back. Let's go back with this one. Busit na shopping na yan. Na 11-11 kasi tayo eh. Okay. Let's go back with this one. Kapag ang equipment na nakuha sa inyo is for the purpose of manufacturing, okay, paggawa ng drugs or paggawa ng essential chemicals, therefore, ayan ang penalty. 12 years, 1 day to 20 years, 100K to 500K. Pero kapag ang instrument na meron sa inyo is yung kanwari, pipe or bong, ayan, syringe, ang syringe yung injection, ha? Or for example, foil, o yung ginagamit nila dito, yung parang straw. Yan. Ang penalty lang naman nila is 6 months, 1 day to 4 years, and a fine of 10K to 50K. Ito, section 11. Dito na kayo medyo magkakatalo-talo, gagamitin ng utak. Okay? Kasi, meron na siyang grams. Possession. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng possession? What's the meaning of possession?
Pag-aari, ma'am.
Pag-aari. Ano pa? Minsan hindi mo man pag-aari. Pag sinabi natin possession, meron ka. Hawak mo, dala mo, tinatago mo. Okay? Possession. Ito, possession of dangerous drugs. Kapag ang pinopossess mo, 10 grams or more of 10 grams of more of dangerous drugs, 50 grams or more shabu, 500, kaya tawag dito, hindi ko nalalagyan ng 10 grams or more. Ibig sabihin, we are talking about all the different dangerous drugs except shabu and marijuana. For example, cocaine. 10 grams or more of cocaine. Ayan. Pero kasi sa shabu at marijuana, kailangan ang existence niya, since common ang shabu at marijuana sa Philippines, kailangan mas mataas ang amount niya. Pero for example, yung mga rare, for example, cocaine, mollies, yung mga rare lang. Yeah, 10 grams or more pwede. So kapag 10 grams or more, ayan, 50 grams or more of shabu, 500 grams or more of marijuana, ang penalty mo, meron ka niyan sa bag mo, sa wallet mo, sa kwarto mo, basta possess. Kapag sinabi nating possession, hindi mo siya ginagamit, kahit hindi mo siya ginagamit, or hindi yan sa'yo, basta hawak mo, nasa gamit mo, ang tawag doon ay possess. Okay? Possession of dangerous drug. Kapag yan meron sa'yo, 10 grams or more, 50 grams of more shabu, 500 grams naman kapag marijuana, ang penalty mo ay life imprisonment to death and a fine of 500k to 10 million. Ma'am, what if ang marijuana ko, okay, is tawag dito, 300 grams lang, or 499 grams lang. 300 grams to 499 grams of marijuana, basta hindi siya umaabot ng 500 grams, plus the different types of dangerous drugs, ang penalty mo ay 20 years, 1 day to life imprisonment, and a fine of 400k to 500k. Ma'am, bakit nawawala sa shabu? Yan. Kasi, kapag naman, kung nakita nyo dito, nilagyan ko nga ng cursor para makita nyo. Yan. Kung makikita mo dito, si shabu is 50 grams or more. Diba? Tignan nyo, kapag naman 10 grams or more, but less than 50 grams of shabu, ang penalty mo is life imprisonment, 400k to 500k. Magkaiba po ha. Tignan nyo. Dito, okay, 5 grams or 10 grams of any other dangerous drugs, ang penalty mo ay is 20 years, 1 day to life imprisonment. Kapag naman ang marijuana is 300 grams to 500 grams, ganun din. Pero naiiba ang shabu. Hindi siya 20 years and 1 day, agad-agad life imprisonment. So kapag 10 grams of shabu or more or less 50 grams, basta hindi siya umaabot ng 50 grams, life imprisonment, 400k to 500k. Next, we also have, kapag, what if less than, dito na, pababa tayo ng paba, less than 5 grams. So, 4 grams lang ako, ma'am, 4 grams of cocaine. Ang penalty mo ay 12 years, 1 day to 20 years, and a fine of 300k to 400k. If it is less than 300 grams of marijuana, therefore it is, ganun din, 12 years, 1 day to 20 years, 300k to 400k. Nagigets niyo po ba niyan? O, for example, bibigyan ko yung scenario, no? For example, nag-import ka ng 5 grams of marijuana. Ano ang kaso mo? Ano ang penalty nyo? Nag-import ka.
Life imprisonment, ma'am. Kasi
years. Importation.
Import eh. Diba? Ibig sabihin, kahit anong gramo. Nagbenta ka ng 10 grams of marijuana. Mag-iiba ba ang kaso mo? Hindi, diba? Kailan na nag-iiba ang kaso mo kapag when it comes to grams? Kapag possession, kung anong hawak mo. Pag kasi sa possession, sabi ko nga, hindi naman ibig sabihin binibenta mo, hindi ibig sabihin ginagamit mo, hindi ibig sabihin may-ari ka. Basta nasa'yo. Possession. Hindi naman required. Okay? Hindi required na pagmamay-ari mo yon. Hindi required na gagamitin mo yon. Hindi required na ibebenta mo yon. Basta nasa'yo. That is possession of dangerous drugs. Diyan lang tayo nagkakatalo-talo. Okay po? Diyan lang ang may gramo. So, be careful with this law. Okay? Kasi baka bigyan ko kayo ng senaryo, malito na kayo. Okay? Kaya nga, di ba, nagbigay muna ako ng mga definition of terms, tapos ginawa ko ganito yung PowerPoint para maintindihan nyo. Meron bang nalilito pa niyan sa inyo? Kasi kung babasahin nyo, nakita nyo na ba yung RA 9165? Did you open it? Di ba, puro words? Inalis ko yun kasi masakit sa mata. Kahit ako yung nagbabasa ng madaming ganon. Pag nag-aaral kayo ng law, lalo na kung, di ba, may mga law subjects na kayo, lalo na kung may mga penalty, summarize it. Kunin nyo mo lang elements, kunin mo yung penalty. Elements, penalty. Kesa dun sa babasahin mong lahat. Okay? Una, intindihin nyo muna, and then summarize it by doing that. That is possession of dangerous drug. What if naman possession of equipment lang? Instrument, aparatos, ayan. Possession of any equipment, 6 months, 1 day to 40 years with a fine of 10K to 50K. Okay. 13 to 14. Okay, section 13 to 14 naman. Possession during parties. Anwari sa mga party, mga nightclubbers dyan, di ba? Social gatherings or meetings. Kapag ang possession mo is any dangerous drug, maximum penalty of section 11. Di ba? Kapag naman ang possession mo lang is equipment or instrument, okay, maximum penalty of section 12. Kasi tignan nyo, ito yung section 12 about the equipment. Section 11 about the dangerous drugs. So, maximum penalty ng mga yan. Kalmari, nagpo-possess ka ng drugs, hindi mo pa naman ginagamit during your party. Ayan ang magiging kaso mo. So, condition, or kailan mo lang masasabi na party yung pinuntahan niya? Or kapag social gatherings or meetings. What's the condition? If it is made within the proximate company of at least 2 persons. Ibig sabihin, 3 kayo. Okay, considered party na yan, social gathering and meeting. Sabi nga, company of at least 2 persons. Next, use of dangerous drugs. Ito. For example, gumamit ka you use 10 grams of shabu. Magkakaiba ba ng penalty mo? Hindi. Wala naman sa grabo yan kapag use. Okay? Sa use of dangerous drugs, ang pinag-uusapan lang na dito, first offense, second offense, and the different, susunod mo bang mga offense. Kapag first offense, okay, first time mo palang mahuli sa drugs, minimum of 6 months rehabilitation. Hindi ka makukulong. Rehab agad muna. Kaya nga, di ba sa Uplantokhang, pinapasuko lang nila. Hindi naman kasi sila makukulong i-rehab lang sila. Pero, kunwari, na-rehab ka na, nakalaya ka na ulit, natapos yung rehab mo. Nagamit ka ulit ng drugs, nahuli ka na gumagamit ka ulit ng drugs. Eto na, meron ka ng penalty na 6 years, 1 day to 12 years, and a fine of 50K to 200K. And so on and so forth. Tumataas yan habang tumatagal, nagiging parang habitual delinquent ka na in using dangerous drugs. Next, cultivation or culture of plants. Anong ibig sabihin ng cultivation or culture of plants? Section 16. Ito yung knowingly, what? Planting or culturing or para Yes, Raymond Cosay, ano yun?
Nagtataniman.
Ayan, kapag alam mo, yan, any person who shall plant, cultivate, or culture any plants that is used for dangerous drugs, ang penalty nyo po ay life imprisonment to death and a fine of 500K to 10 million. O, sino pang gusto magtanim ng marijuana dyan? Next. Section 17. Ayan. Maintenance and keeping of original records of transactions on dangerous drugs and controlled precursors and essential chemicals. An act of what? Any practitioner, manufacturer, wholesaler, importer, distributor, or dealer or retailer. Alam mo may mga records kasi yan yung mga, diba nga, meron silang illegal trafficking route, diba, meron silang mga illegal trade, yan. Lahat ng mga records nila, yung mga transaction na ginagawa nila yan, okay? Kung sino man ang nagtatago or nagmamanage nun, ang penalty niya is 1 year and 1 day to 6 years and a fine of 10K to 50K. For example, may transaction ng controlled precursors sa isang hospital. Pero syempre, hindi naman nila, kasi yung mga binibentang gamot, alam nyo, inaano yan, kinukuha yan ng DFA or sino man ang authority na, tawag dito, kung sino man ang authority na assign for that list. Lahat kasi ng mga binibenta, ganyan. So, di ba yung iba, inaalis sila sa bentahan, yung mga, lalo na kung illegal, mga black market. Yan. So, kung sino man yung nagkikip ng records na yan, yung mga original records na yun at pinapalitan, ganyan ang kanyang penalty. 1 year and 1 day to 6 years, 10K to 50K. Do you believe that some hospitals do that? Ako, oo. Kasi may mga, di ba alam naman natin na may mga regulated drugs or prohibited drugs. For example, bawal siyang ibenta sa mismong, bawal ibenta sa mga drugstore na ang nakakapagbenta lang is yung mga hospital. Kasi kailangan ng list. Ganyan. So, may mga ganyan, yung mga ibang hospital na nagpo-provide ng mga drugs. Mga methadone, ganyan. Pang anesthesia, pang ganyan. Na sa kanila lang dapat, sa hospital lang dapat, pero nabebenta nila sa iba, sa black market. So, yan ang nagiging kaso nila po. Next, unnecessary prescription of dangerous drugs. For example, doktor ka, alam mo na heroin addict itong pasyente mo, kahit na hindi naman niya kailangan ng heroin, gumawa ka ng prescription na kailangan niya ng heroin. Therefore, ito ang penalty mo. 12 years, 1 day to 20 years, and a fine of 100K to 500K. And the last one, section 19. Okay, unlawful prescription of dangerous drugs. Any person who, unless authorized by law, shall make or issue prescription. For example, hindi to doktor. Hindi siya doktor, tapos nagdo-doktor-doktoran lang yung mga gumagawa ng sariling reseta. Penalty of life imprisonment to death and a fine of 500K to 10 million. Ang pinagkaiba ng unlawful prescription sa unnecessary prescription. Sa unnecessary prescription of dangerous drugs, ang gumagawa nito doktor. Tapos binibigay niya sa mga pasyente or sa mga client niya na kahit hindi naman kailangan sa kanila. Para lang ma-support ang kaadikan sa dangerous drug ng pasyente nila. Ang unlawful prescription, ito talaga, hindi naman siya doktor. Parang kahit tambay lang siya, gumawa lang siya ng sariling reseta. Intindihan po ba? So, do you have any questions? Can you open your cameras?
Wala na, ma'am.
If you don't have any questions, therefore, so I limit my discussion to that. And please be reminded that na next week is mauna muna ang quiz about dyan. Okay? Please do advanced reading of RA 9165, yung mga susunod na section, section 20 and above. Okay? Kasi, different, naman to, parang iba kasing, ibang approach naman. Ang pag-usapan daw natin is mga procedures naman. Dito kasi, we're talking about the definition of terms and the penalties. So, yun ang topic ng 13 and 14. So, section, sa 15, 16, 17, magtatakal na tayo ng mga operations ng mga police, kung paano nakukuha yung drugs, saan dadalhin yung mga evidence, ganyan. Okay? So, if you don't have any questions, please do the review kasi mahirap po ang quiz next meeting. Ipe-prepare ko lang kayo for finals. I will give you some situational para hindi kayo nalilito. Lalo na sa mga penalties. Okay po. So, if you don't have any questions, then open your cameras and let's take some screenshot first.
Ma'am, upload mo ito.